Good morning, everybody. Started the process on tearing the corn planter down today, figuring out everything we need for everything that's broken, and also found one other thing that's very concerning that we need to get addressed before going back to the field. So obviously, most recent thing is the fact that we ran with one wheel on one side. That would be this one. We already put a new valve stem in. It's fixed, ready to go on. Whenever Dad gets here, we can get that addressed. Next thing is our tank mount here. Wasn't really holding up. I didn't have thick enough steel down here, so we're going to cut this bottom strap off and replace this probably with 1/2-inch steel, and we'll get that all welded back on, get a bigger gusset put on, and then put that all back together, and we can put the tank and everything back on. And then our third thing is this fitting here. We got to address that. Stuff's coming today in a farm chem order, so we're going to replace that T there. And I talked about it a little bit in the previous videos, but we're going to cut these pipes back and slide rubber or slide soft hose over and clamp them and have a hose barb T right there, and that'll fix that issue. And then this, which is very concerning, and I don't know how I didn't notice it before, but that pin is slowly walking out. So we'll have to pound that back in, try and figure out where the bolt hole's at, and get that all lined back up again and get that buttoned up. For some reason, somehow my infrared pump, I noticed it today. I don't know if it's just because we ran in the rain. It'd probably go away, so I'm not really going to screw around with it. But my fertilizer pump in the back for infrared is somehow backfeeding a ground up into that controller box. The pump is not kicking on, but I'll just show you. I came out to the barn this morning and found this box on. So I was kind of worried I might have burned up a pump, but the pump doesn't appear to run. But switch is on. It does this weird thing. And it just sits there like that. And then it flashes that stuff. And then eventually it'll go to where there's just a 1 on this digit. I don't know if that's some sort of error code, but it goes away when I unplug the lead to the motor. It also goes away when I unplug the positive, but that makes sense. And then I haven't messed around. When Dad gets here, I'll see if the pump kicks on when I turn my switch on. So, yeah, it's weird. Really weird. Once we're back up and ready, it looks like maybe next Thursday we can get back out in the field. All of a sudden, after yesterday, it's just rain every day for the next 4 days, I think. Nothing like huge amounts, just like 1/10 here, 1/2 here, but it's enough to keep stuff saturated. We got about 4/10 yesterday total, so not a lot, but enough to take care of us for a little bit. So yeah, that's what's going on. I'll keep you guys updated. So I've been running into some compromises, you could say, out here. You can see parts and tools accumulating. We cut the pipes back farther, and those hoses weren't sliding over it at all. They were way too big. So I tried going and getting fittings that would glue onto these PVC fittings. There's nothing. This is 1.25 pipe, and local places in the plumbing departments, I guess 1.25 is not a very common size because nobody has anything as far as 1.25 goes. And if there was 1.25, there wasn't the fittings to adapt it up to 1.5. So it was just a complete debacle. What I ended up doing is wire wheeling the pipe down to the diameter to where the hose can slide over it. Now we're clamping it. It may still drip, but I'm just hoping that it drips less than it did before at this point. When this planter is done with and coming back in the shop, we're going to tear all of this plumbing off and redo it all with soft hose like that, so then we won't have this issue anymore. And also, while this is in here, I should look at splicing those hoses back together, because this drips, but it only drips when you're filling, when it's under pressure. So I should look at that. I'll see if I get time, but I've got enough stuff going on here at the moment. So now we're putting this pipe back on. This one goes off of this valve here, and it ends about right there. And so then we'll put the hose on, and then try and get the hose onto the T right there. I've got to head over to the precision dealer and get my FurrowJet manifolds, but I'll show you guys. I just wrapped up this fertilizer project, so I'll show you guys what it looks like. Now we've got her attached there, diverter valve there, and it's all set up. Hopefully she don't leak. I got a lot more hose on the pipe on that side than I do on this side, so this is the side I'm really worried about. All that should be good there, but like I said, this is all temporary. It's all gonna come off. Next year we'll replumb all of this and get rid of these dinky compression fittings that seem to only just want to start leaking, and we'll make it look all nice next year. But for now, that is it. I'll have to tidy that stuff up when I get back. Got my new FurrowJet manifolds. Got 2 of them. I'm going to use one right away. Got one to have on hand. I've had a problem row. That's row 8 right here. With the hose popping out of this one. I think the shark bite's going bad. So I'm going to be pulling that FurrowJet off and replacing the manifold. And then I have one on my shelf there, just in case I end up with another problem one here shortly. I don't know where Dad put the metal for that stuff. He's over getting ready to do chores. So, is that it? Oh yeah, there it is. So we got a 1/2 inch thick chunk of steel there for the bottoms. Got 3/8 for gussets. We got to cut these down a little bit. I think they're 4-inch gussets. I think they got to be 3.5. I might be able to get a 4-inch on there. It's a little tight. We can just cut the end off there, and that'll be good, because it's gonna block that washer a little bit. But when he gets over here, $7.25 each. Jeez, maybe I should have just cut my own. Oh well. When he gets over here, he can help me lift this down. This thing is surprisingly a lot heavier than it looks, and I can't lift it off the planter frame, so I'm not going to attempt to slide it off, because then I will end up on the ground with a tank frame on top of me. I think somehow I got it up there on my own, but it didn't have the tank saddles on there, but those aren't that heavy either, so I don't know how I did it. And then I think we might need to take the plasma cutter and rip this down a little bit. It's 2.5 inches. Let me see if I got the space on there to leave it whole, or if I got to tear it down a little bit. Might need to tear it down a little bit. This is 2-inch. I got 2.5 up here, but back here I've got 2.5. Okay, yeah, I think we'll be all right. 2.5. So we'll get that cut. We need 9.5-inch long pieces, so we'll get them cut, get them drilled. I gotta remember what drill bit it is. I think these are 3/4 inch. So we'll get that stuff done, and then we obviously got to get these old ones cut off and get the gussets cut off somehow and get all that cleaned up. Alright, we're out terminating some cover crop. Got some Roundup and Enlist in the tank, running a quart of each. Not Roundup, but you know, generic Roundup, the fake stuff. So we're 31 acres, well 33 acres into this field, about 31. And we have a jug of wets to dump in. This is a surfactant, soil amendment, wetting agent. I could dump this in. This is 10 acres worth, and we're gonna see how this thing lights it up. And then this field's 66 acres, so we're spraying to 40 with this mix. So we sprayed 30 acres Roundup and Enlist. 10 acres gonna be Roundup and Enlist and Wex, and then the last 20 acres is gonna be 2 quarts of Roundup and Wex. 2 quarts of Roundup and Wex. Let me switch the camera around and I'll talk to you about it. Well, actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set you guys back there so that I can dump this jug in, and I'll talk to you guys about it while it's mixing, because I gotta let this sit and agitate for 5 minutes. So Wex is a Conklin product. You guys know we're trying a bunch of their products out this year. No sponsorship, nothing like that. Not yet. Conklin, reach out. So we're dumping this in the top. It's basically kind of like the texture of almost like some sort of soap is basically what I would describe it as. It's a little kind of like waxy, a little bit sticky. So that goes in. We let it set for 5 minutes and agitate. Then we just all mix together good. Had some good results with it with spring burn down. Nothing accelerated like the start of burn, but once it did start turning yellow, within 24 hours everything was dead. Whereas it took, I'd say, 3 or 4 days for just the Roundup and 2,4-D to completely die off. I have never had a phone where the camera app crashes, but this one seems to do that from time to time. So the economics behind this, the Roundup and Enlist program for terminating cover is $18.80, I think. The Roundup and Enlist and Wex comes out to like $24. Wex is $6 an acre at a quart rate. You can run it from a pint all the way up to a quart. They recommend pint at post-emerge, quart at pre-emerge. So $24. Roundup and Enlist Wex doesn't make sense economically as far as I'm concerned. If there's a yield bump with the Wex, then it might. So we'll see. That's why I'm doing this check strip. But then the reasoning behind why I'm excited about it is if I can get it to work, I know it's going to work with 2 quarts of Roundup, but next year we might do side by side with 1.5 quart and quart. 2 quarts of Roundup and a quart of Wex is, that $18.83 is including a $2.50 operating cost on the sprayer, because that's how much we usually cost to roll over our acres. Roundup and Wex is like $15, so $3 cheaper. Not a lot, but $3 does add up over acres fairly quickly. And then if you can run a 1.5 quart of Roundup, you are down to, take another $1.50 off of that, you're down to like $13.50. So if I can get that to work, I can save money terminating cover. And then also usually this isn't a huge stand of cover, but it is enough to make a mulch mat. Usually I can get away with 1 herbicide pass, and that's my termination pass. So if that's the case with my soybeans, if I can do a $13.50 herbicide pass on my beans, that's incredibly good. Roundup and Liberty even is like 15, I think. 30 divided by 4. It's like $12 to do a Roundup Liberty pass, which I could do on this too. So I don't like running Liberty though, because obviously with a lot of applicators, they don't like 20 gallons per acre. I'm not a huge deal with that, but my well doesn't keep up at the farm when I'm doing 20 gallons. And then also just changing tips, all of that. I hate doing that. But so that's kind of the idea behind it, is to cheapen up the termination, and it will probably accelerate the termination and get the cover crop down and matted before the seedlings emerge, or a little faster, which I think will help. Finished up the cover crop termination. Now we're out scouting fields that need to be sprayed, or I'm checking to see if they need to be sprayed. This is our second to last, I think it's going to be the second to last soybean field. So this 14 acres. This was a cover crop. This was wheat in 23, put in the cover, the 7 species mix or whatever it is that we'd run, and then no-tilled corn into it, and then terminated it just like we just did today. And you can see now we're in 25. There is quite a bit of clover out here, which I'm fine with the clover being here. This is not ryegrass, though. I think this is just regular old grass out here. So we are going to spray this and burn it off before we plant into it, because this grass I don't want to get out of control. But I am checking for spots like this where there's water. This is a normal wet spot, and there's probably ruts from my Jeep out here somewhere from taking soil samples, because this was one of those fields that was an absolute nightmare in the spring. But there's a lot of water out here. There's not really anywhere to drain this field off, though, if we wanted to. The field is solid except for like a spot like this. There's another one over there. It rolls. There's a really big hill there that the house and everything sits on. The back corner is usually wet, and then you can see it rolls down into a swale over there. That's usually wet. If they're all with that much water in them, I'm gonna wait. We have like 5 or 6 days before we can even get back out with the planter anyway. So if I can find a better day to do it, I can get the other 6 sprayed. The 6 acres, which is the last field of soybeans, is identical situation to this. Cover crop, planted into a corn, and there's just no clover out there, though. It's grass and thistle coming back in that field. So I'm just doing some scouting. I don't know if I'm really going to go out and spray anymore today. I don't really want to rut this field up, because it is going to be no-till again. That's really soft right there, so that's not going to work. We may just give this field a couple days. I think what I'm going to do is wait. When they're ready, I have this, the 6. I have 12 that's going to corn. It's going to be the last field of corn planted, but it's got ryegrass in it that's coming back really bad. I'm going to get that sprayed, and I've got a bunch of corn burned down to do. But none of it is a big rush. It's all really little, nothing to really deal with yet. So I think that's going to be it for today. Good morning, guys. This is kind of a mid-video deal for you guys, but I kind of feel like I'm starting a new thing here, because I did some work over the weekend that was on video, and yesterday was a drone day, or part of the day. I was gone till 2:30 yesterday, and it was a nice day, but today it's raining again, and there's more in the rain gauge than what I would like to see, but I can't control that, so we're not even gonna worry about it. We're about 1.25 inches so far last night and this morning. We got 1.75 inches on Sunday, so that's a lot. We had some lakes Sunday night, but by the end of yesterday they were all gone. So we're gonna go take a drive real quick and see how the ground's holding up. And we are not gonna leave the road this morning, because been there, done that. I'm not calling Dad 9:56 on a Tuesday morning that I got the truck stuck somewhere. So, got to burn that field off yet. That's ryegrass that got flown on, and then I ended up ripping it in the fall because I didn't see any cover crop out there. So, and then the cover came in the spring. Oh, that field there on the right is our first field of beans we planted on April 17th. You can't see it from the road very well. I do see some water in places. We'll slow down at the driveway and see if there's any beans that you can row from the road. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, I don't see anything. There's water everywhere, though. That sucks. Those little areas will dissipate pretty quick, I think. But yeah, these fields have me questioning whether they will be replanted or not. but for now we leave them. That is not planted yet, but it is worked up. That field has some absolutely awful tile in it. Tile's plugged in multiple spots, so that's probably right there a tile run all the way across the field where all that water's sitting. Over there is a tile blowout about 300 feet from the lift pump. So the last 300 feet, all that water runs across the surface to the pump, which the pump doesn't work, so it just fills up and then it doesn't do anything. So that's one of the fields I have my eye on as far as when I get my tile equipment. But it needs pattern tile. Then here on the left, we have our cover crop field. There's low water in that corner. That's to be expected. Usually there's more. There's some back there about halfway down. That's a normal wet spot there. There's going to be standing water right off the driveway here probably because the road runs down and runs into the driveway. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's starting to yellow a little bit. We're 2-3 days since that was sprayed, so it'll be a minute yet, but it should start dying off. I'm sure there's standing water out in the field back there, but the other field, the one with bad tile that would flood, is the one down at Dad's house. So we'll run down there real quick. This is Dad's house, headlands there. Headlands there. There's a bad tile run over there, multiple spots, water bubbles out of the ground. It still dissipates, and I am hoping it dissipates fast enough to not flood all that out. I mean, it's not terrible. The ground is heavily saturated though. Can't row beans yet, but Dad said they're all up. So, alrighty. There's our little rain update. I'm sure there's wheat flooding out somewhere, but I'm not driving out in those laneways. You'll never make it out of them alive. So, we'll head back to the farm, put our blinders on when it comes to ground conditions, because I don't want to think about the fact that all that seed we put in the ground may be under all that water. I'm going to get this stuff all ground off, cleaned up around the edges, and then what we're going to do is we're going to measure from down here up to the top on both sides, and whatever one is longer, we're going to cut to match the shorter one. That way we're starting with the same length pillar, and then we'll get the new things that are welded on. And we will probably have to, maybe not, I was going to say we may have to U-bolt them onto the frame to figure out where exactly we can weld them on, but we'll figure it out, I think. Probably should have shot a measurement off of them, but I didn't. So that's out of the question. But Dad was just here a little bit ago. I had the things tacked on there, and we set it on the planter, and the holes weren't spaced out enough to get the U-bolt on. I don't know how that happened. I took measurements directly off the other ones. I don't know if they were spent a little too much and the holes weren't right. So Dad was trying to ream them out with the drill press, which I have almost zero faith in it working, but he had to run off because the dog ran off. So he's out getting the dog, I think. I don't know. He mentioned trying it with the plasma cutter. We might try something like that. We got to get almost 1/4 inch on each side. That's how bad my measurement was. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So we're trying to figure that out, and once we get that done, we can re-weld them onto this. Well, it has been a very frustrating couple hours. I'm going to give you guys a rundown of what has happened. If I can grab this cable. Just give me a second, and then I'll give you a rundown. First of all, Dad needed my truck to go pick up chickens. and it wouldn't start. It wouldn't do anything. If you guys don't know, in the past on my truck, I've had accessory issues, and what I did to remedy that for now, temporarily, was I cut this battery cable that runs from under the hood right here, where the aftermarket radio people spliced into it. There's a cable there with a bolt in it. It runs from there up to the fuse panel. I cut it right here, and so I had a battery disconnect right here by my parking brake, and that just completely corroded over time. You can see that terminal. It is absolutely nasty, and this is not letting power through it, so I'm assuming the internals are just as bad or worse than that. So what I did was I got a whole new cable made, and you can see it's one cable to replace two cables. That is because, taking this apart, I have realized that I have water dripping out of my fuse panel, which is not ideal. So I may be replacing this fuse panel entirely. I don't know yet. But what I do know is, or what I think I know, is that the windshield leaks, which is what somebody had told me on Instagram in my DMs a couple weeks ago, is that they replaced their windshield and it fixed the same issue I am having. So we'll see. I mean, there's some spots that look wet on the back here. I don't know where the water's getting into it at, but I just know I opened it up, and she was dripping earlier. She might have air dried out now, but it was dripping. So I'm gonna hopefully address that. But first, I'm gonna address the windshield. There's spots like this. I don't know if that gets water in and lets it pass, but I don't have any evidence of a leaky windshield as far as under the dash goes. I don't have water lines, I don't have rust, I don't have anything, but somehow there is water in here, I guess. The rest of the update is down in the shop. I left you guys with knowing that we have to ream them holes out, or longer. We have to make them longer. I started doing that with the plasma cutter. It was working pretty decently, and you'll see what happened. Put that pin back. I already did the manifold and the furrow jet, so we are solely working on this tank and the wheel. So yeah, I was plasma cutting, and I did one hole, not bad. Was doing this hole when all at once I heard a massive pop. Lost amperage readout, came back for a second. I had almost no arc on the plasma cutter, and so we shut everything down, opened this all up. We were looking for burn marks. This thing is an absolute crazy wire mess in this welder, but I guess that's to be expected because there's 7 different welders in this thing, so or 7 different processes. But was looking, can't find anything burnt anywhere, can't find anything that looks bad, and maybe something there, I don't know. Can't find anything. Went to try and use it again, and it just clicks. You hear an electronic load. If you don't know what that sounds like, people who do know what it sounds like knows what it sounds like. Hear the electronics come under load, and that's it. That's all it does. So now I'm working with tech support on Yes Welder to figure this thing out. I sent a video of what it's doing, and I'm waiting to hear back now. So I don't have a plasma cutter, so I don't know how I'm going to continue that project, but that is where we are at for today. I still got 2 more holes to do on that, so we'll figure that out. Now I'm just focused on my truck. I'm gonna get my truck working again, and then we will come back to this whole conglomeration of a project after. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. There we go. All good. Just gotta button that up down there. Get some electrical tape and tape that up. We're all set. truck lives to see another day. Keep tripping over all this stuff. Somebody ought to pick it up and just keep tossing filters around. That was from that lawnmower that was in here a week or so ago. I don't know why I haven't picked it up, but anyway, didn't end up calling anybody because I just pulled out the OG plasma cutter and we got it done. So I think they'll work. Not too bad. So let them cool down, grind a little bit of slag off that's on them. We can put them on. Looking for U-bolts right there. And make sure they'll match up. Oh yeah, just gotta get rid of the slag. We'll be all set. Same with that one. It literally took all day, but we finally got this little bugger done. So we're gonna let the paint dry tonight, and I'll have Dad help me put it up on the planter tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's gonna span multiple days, multiple projects, multiple different little things here and there. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.